Thanks for tuning in live to Proline TV. It's our NASCAR coverage, and we don't have many of these left. Talladega this week, followed by Martinsville, Phoenix, and then it's all over, everybody. So get it all in for the next 3 weeks, and it'll be all over until Daytona and a whole new season in 2026, and maybe a different car as well. Not a completely manufactured different car, but we're hearing some nice little tweaks to next year's car. We'll talk more about that over the next few weeks. But the bottom line is this week we have Talladega, CJ. So this should be a lot of fun.
Definitely looking forward to Talladega, one of the better races. Definitely amping up the pressure on everybody else not named Denny Hamlin that is in playoff contention. So we'll see what it brings on Sunday.
Yeah, and let's see what it brings Denny Hamlin as far as his championship odds. Let's see what we got here for Denny. What do you think Denny should be?
At least 4-1. I'm guessing 3-1.
Almost. Oh, I'm looking at that's wrong one. There we go.
Yeah.
So you've lost your opportunity to take Denny Hamlin so you can get some value. That's all gone. The question will be, what will Denny Hamlin's odds be in a couple of weeks? Those are the big odds. Those are the big questions. So let's see here. What do you think should be next?
That is a tough one. It's probably going to be Kyle Larson, and maybe he's at 3-1. Yeah, 425. Yeah,
Blaney's still in it. Bell, Byron. Are you a little surprised that Bell and Byron are not like at least even with Blaney, considering how far back Blaney is?
I am. That's what I was going to say. Christopher Bell actually looks like a pretty good value right there. I have belief that he's going to get through. He sits third in the standings right now. So it's a tight battle, but he's got 20 points over William Byron. So if he can make his way through Talladega, 6-1 for Christopher Bell is not a bad play right now.
And Briscoe getting 10-1.
Yeah.
Still nice little value play there.
He could have won on Sunday.
You know, I think maybe with Blaney, it could just be the fact that there was a lot of money bet on him after the last round, and it's probably still affecting the odds a little bit. It's the only thing I could think of. Okay, so there you go. That's what the championship odds look like later on. As you can see there, Formula One will be talking about the USA Grand Prix that's coming up after our NASCAR talk. So check back if you don't want to tune in to any NASCAR coverage. It should be in somewhere about half hour, 45 minutes. Of course, you could also just watch the on-demand edited version that we usually post no later than Thursday or Friday later this week. You could also check out CJ's DFS report, best bets for the race in Texas for
Texas. Yep.
Yeah, for the Formula One race. They're in the U.S. finally. And then we'll also, of course, be on the lookout same day, usually every Friday, for the DFS Best Bets report at rotowire.com for the race this week, Talladega. Let's do a quick little wrap up of what happened last week or just a couple of days ago with Denny Hamlin getting the win. You know, another pretty good race at Las Vegas. There was, not a lot known who would win that race. There were definitely, a handful of drivers that were in contention to win it. But Denny Hamlin actually pulled it out, and he is the first pole sitter to win at Las Vegas since 2009. As crazy as that sounds.
Wasn't he the last one to do it too?
Oh, was he? Maybe. Could have been. That's not a bad guess. I know he was the last driver to win pre-NextGen.
Yes.
Yes, that was
Yep.
in 2021. and the first Toyota to win at Las Vegas in the NextGen. So Toyota finally breaking through with a win at Las Vegas. And yeah, so what did you think about Denny Hamlin getting the victory?
It was actually, I just looked it up. It was Kyle Busch was the last one to win from pole back in 2009. It was a great race, very competitive all the way through. I think we saw the entire time I was watching it, I was just thinking about how, I forget what track it was, but we've probably said it a couple of times this year already, where the second race at a track, the manufacturer that was not strong in the first round comes back with a vengeance. And that was the case certainly on Sunday. Hendrick and Chevrolet.
Oh, Saturday too.
Yes, Hendrick and Chevrolet were certainly competitive, but Toyotas were right up there with them. It was a just result. I kind of came against the run of play with Kyle Larson pretty much dominating most of it, but Hamlin had the best car after the last stop, and that was all he needed to make the passes. And Las Vegas, thankfully, allows passing. So we had a good race.
Kyle Larson finishing second for the second race in a row. Christopher Bell finishes third for the third race in a row. And if Chase Briscoe would have finished fourth at the Roval, he would have finished fourth for the third race in a row. That would have been nice if he would have finished fourth for the fourth race in a row. Then we would have had something. Then I think we would have had to figure out a way to, I don't know, lottery ticket or some sort of game. But that just wasn't the case. Still pretty neat. First, second, third with Hamlin, Larson, and Bell. And again, Blaney now all of a sudden has cooled off a little bit at the wrong time. But he's going to go to two tracks that he's more than capable of getting a win. Joey Logano, can never count him out. So what do you think of the way the playoff standings are right now? Do you look at it in any way, or is it just still too early? We got a couple of races to go, and it's anybody's race, so to speak.
It's still anybody's race. I mean, we got Talladega here. So just as Blaney had bad luck very early in Las Vegas, any one of the playoff contenders can have bad luck early at Talladega or even late at Talladega. If a lot of cars stay in it till the end, you have one big crash a lap from the end, you can still finish way down at the bottom of the order. So I think coming out of Talladega, we'll certainly have a significantly better picture just by virtue of the fact that there's only race left. But I wouldn't count Logano or Blaney, Team Penske, Chase Elliott, any of those guys out yet, because all of them are capable of winning at Talladega and all of them are capable of crashing at Talladega.
Yeah, and what's important too for Blaney and Logano, 7th and 8th, that they are also, if you're going to bet on which two drivers, which team has the best chance of gobbling up stage points, is those two. So as long as they survive and don't wreck until like the last lap or something, they don't get involved, or it could even be in the last stage. Somewhere, if they can survive those first two stages and gobble up big ass stage points, then even if there's a late wreck, that could still give them an option to hang in there and put them in a position where they may not have to win at Martinsville. So.
Yeah, stage points are going to be very important. The spread between Larson and Blaney is 51 points. So that's a lot to overcome. Certainly a win would be nice for Blaney, but stage points and some trouble for Larson and or Bell would help him significantly as well going to Martinsville.
Okay, so let's get ready to talk about this race. Let's line up the odds. And I mean, let's see. Let me just see this first, because I recall. Yeah, there are 4 drivers that are co-favorites, 6 drivers that are within 2 points of the top drivers. So, do you want to guess which of those 6 drivers are in that group?
I have one guess. And it's Ryan Blaney, and that's about it. I don't know who the rest of them are going to be. No idea. Could be anybody.
Let's take a look. And we've got Byron, Blaney, Logano, Cindric. We got the 3 Penske drivers. And we got Chase Elliott. And who is going to be the last one? Come on now.
Briscoe?
No. We've got 3 Penskes and 3 Hendrick drivers.
Oh, is it?
It's Kyle Larson.
Oh, Larson. Okay.
Yes. Sorry. At 12-1. So those are your top 6, 3 Hendrick drivers against 3 Penske drivers for the top odds. And the top 4 are Byron, Blaney, Logano, and Cindric. Obviously, at every sportsbook is different, but that's the way it is here at DraftKings. Okay, so let's start first of all with this. I tell you what, let's go by the teams. Let's do that. So let's talk about. Well, you know what? Actually, before we do that, because this track is not normally a track where I'm going to go over a whole bunch of practice speeds, because sometimes they even have practice, like earlier this year. I don't even know if they're having practice this week. I would think they would, but I don't know. Maybe they won't. Where do they do that to make sure there's no wrecks and cars getting chewed up, that kind of thing?
I think it's just a legacy of the desire to save teams money by spending on track. So obviously, if you end up with a crash car, it costs money to fix, but tires and fuel and all that good stuff, plus getting there early.
Okay. So yeah, so the bottom line is there really isn't a whole lot to go on. The data for
it doesn't matter. I think if you look at the stats from Talladega, it really doesn't matter where you start. I'm trying to scroll. It's been 112 races. Okay. So Austin Cindric is only the 2nd driver since 2020 to have started better than 10. Well, he's the 1st driver to have started better than 10th since 2020 and won at this track. So it doesn't matter.
NextGen, you mean?
Not even pre-NextGen. It
okay.
Really doesn't matter. But if you just take the NextGen, the only other driver that started inside the top 10 and won at Talladega just in the NextGen races was Ryan Blaney, who started 10th. Everybody else started 16th or worse.
Yeah. So again, it's 2 of 7 started in the top 10. Like you said, and no driver, by the way, started in the top 3 rows. So you've got that. You've had 1 pole sitter win at Talladega since 2017 fall race, and that's 1 in the last 16. I think that was Hamlin.
There was Sten. Yes. Oh no, you're right. It was Hamlin.
And that was in 2020.
Yep, correct.
There have been 7 different drivers winning in the NextGen. Okay. So if you want to go with that trend, and by the way, 10 different drivers in the last 10. So if you want to go with that trend, then that means you are not going to pick. Okay. Get ready, everybody. So write this down. You are not going to pick Hamlin, Keselowski, Wallace, Chastain, Elliott, Busch, Blaney, Reddick, Stenhouse, Cindric. All right. So that means as far as the top drivers, you can still go with Byron and Larson and Logano. So there you go. So there's Bell. So there are definitely some good drivers that you can go if you want to go that trend. All right. And the 7 from 2022 just would not include Wallace, Keselowski, or Hamlin. All right. So there's your little weird note of the day. The average starting position, as you were saying, CJ, the average starting position of NextGen is 17th. So again, don't worry about starting position. And the last 3 winners, the manufacturers were Ford, Chevy, Toyota. So you don't worry about that either. So it looks like my show on Saturday might be pretty quick, which is good because it's a Saturday right in the middle of college football. So I've been pretty much making those quick lately anyway. So that'll be really quick. All right, let's take a look now we'll start with the drivers. So let's go with these top Hendrick cars first. So you got between Byron, Elliott, and Larson, And Byron has never won at Talladega, even though he's been really good at Daytona. Of course, he won the 500 again this year. But in his last 2 races at Talladega, he's finished third. And in his last 5 races at Talladega, he has a 4.4 average with 1 runner-up. Only led 24 laps during that stretch, but that's still very good numbers. And then you've got Elliott with a couple of wins over his career, including a NextGen win. And he's been pretty solid in the NextGen as well. So he's really been here good. NextGen, no, not NextGen, hasn't mattered. 5th earlier this year. Don't forget, he also won the Quaker State 400 at Atlanta. For whatever that's worth, you've got Atlanta and Daytona, obviously the more similar of this racetrack. And Kyle Larson has put together his best back-to-back results ever at Talladega. 2nd this year, 4th in this race last year. Now, the key, though, is, and this is important, is that out of those 2 races, he led only a combined 4 laps. So while he's done a good job of positioning himself up in the top 10 for a lot of these races now lately, not just Talladega, he's getting better at it. He's still, you could tell, CJ, just by looking at him, he's still not comfortable in this type of racing. And that's why when I have other options to choose from, and we talked about this like sometime this year or last year, we talked about that. Hey, you know what? At some point, it could just be luck, or he will eventually get it. And maybe that's what's happening now, that I just think, and this has been going on for a while now, that I'm just going to let Kyle Larson beat me on one of these tracks. And when he does, then I could start looking at him as maybe just another driver that I might want to bet at this racetrack. But until he does, I'm just staying away from him.
I agree. He's definitely been getting better. And like you said, he's got the 2 back-to-back finishes, best ever for him at Talladega, the 4th and the 2nd. He's been doing well at the super speedways this season. We've been talking about it. But like you said, the problem with him is my problem for all of the Hendrick cars, is that they just don't get out there and lead laps. And there's something to be said for that, because Byron won at Daytona, and the crashes at super speedways more recently with this next generation of car seem to happen at the front. So maybe that's a good thing, and maybe just coming in at the end is where you need to be and making that move off of turn 4. William Byron of the bunch is definitely the one that's able to do that. At Talladega, he's got 5 straight top 10 finishes. 3 of the last 4 were finishes of 3rd or 2nd. But in that span, he's only led like 23 laps, whereas Elliott and Larson have led just a kind of a handful of like 4 or 5 each. So I agree. I'm going to avoid Kyle Larson until he starts looking more comfortable and getting out there and actually leading these super speedway races. Chase Elliott always has a propensity to win. I think he's more of a top 10 kind of car. Certainly if he's got the chance, he's going to go for it. But if you're going to go for somebody in the Hendrick camp that's going to win, I think it's going to likely be Byron, which is why he's up there at the top of the list, just because he's consistently there. And he won Daytona earlier this year, so he's got it down and just kind of knows what to do under these conditions.
Yeah, again, with Larson too, as has been the case for several years now, even before he was getting decent at these tracks, Kyle Larson was getting overvalued. I mean, his odds were ridiculously low, should never have been. And now that he's actually doing something, he still should be somewhere around 18-1. He should not be 12-1. So you're just still not getting any value from him. There's no way Kyle Larson's odds, should be better than, say, Bell's or Kozlowski's, at least. Even Stenhouse should have better odds than Kyle Larson. So, but I think the positive is, if you want to take Larson, is that he will, unlike maybe Stenhouse specifically, Larson will be able to team up with Elliott and Byron. That definitely would be a plus for him. It's just, again, you're just not getting any value. So, he's getting better at it. Go with it, what you want. If you might look at it too, is, hey, I never get 12-1 with Larson. Let me take advantage of it, especially coming off his best back-to-back races at Talladega. And a little luck goes a long way. And he has been lucky to survive any issues in the last couple of races at Talladega. And it's another thing that we're going to get into is the luck factor, because it usually comes in bunches, either positive or negative. And we're going to start that kind of theme with Blaney, Logano, Cindric, CJ, because if you look at it, Blaney, now check his streakiness out the last 6 races at Talladega. In his last 3 races, he's got an average of 32nd with 2 wrecks. In his previous 3 at Talladega, all right, I have popped back in. I have no idea what happened to my signal here. Hopefully, we weren't out too long. Let me see if I can get CJ back here. No, CJ is still out. So, yeah, not sure where this is coming from. We're having some internet issues, I guess. Oh, I think CJ's trying to pop in. I know he's attempting it. There he is.
There we go.
CJ.
You froze on me.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay. Yeah, it's so weird because with the system, from my point of view, it looks like there's an issue on your end.
Interesting.
But I know it by now. So I know when I see that, I know that is on my end. And so I have to now the good news is it wasn't a power outage. If it was, I would have been lost for 10 minutes. And it's funny because whenever it is an issue on my end, then you're the one that's by yourself, and it's up to you to just carry the show until I come back.
Now I know. So next time you freeze on me, I will just pick it up and start running with it rather than thinking it's on my side.
Yes. Okay. So anyway, let's get back to this. So let me pop this back in. And it might just also have done with the fact that, as usual, this stuff happens when you clear your cache on your computer, which I did about an hour ago. So I'm not surprised we're having these kind of problems. By the way, I was going over Logano and Blaney. I'm not sure. When did I stop? Did I get into that at all?
Yeah, you were talking about the up and down. So you'd gotten through Logano.
Oh, the streak.
Yeah.
Okay. By the way, let's see. S. Cole thinking of putting money on both this week's outrights as well as for both championship.
I think that's good.
Are you talking about 850 and Logano 1200 this week? I'm guessing. So, yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Now, for the championship, I wish you would have done this a little earlier, but maybe you just didn't have the funds. I don't know. Because Blaney's now down, as we said, to 450 approximately. Every book is different, but Logano's still getting a good 10-1. And I still have no problem with either of those if you want to do it. Again, for instance, if you put $100 on each, then and Blaney wins, then you can clear what, 250, I guess. But if Logano wins, then you can clear 800, something like that. So that's still okay. I just what do you think?
I think it's fine. I agree. I wish money on Blaney earlier when the odds were better. 450 right now is not the best value,
Especially where he is right now.
Agreed. And with the con side of that, or the other side of that, is that either Blaney or Logano could very well win this weekend. If they do, they're right there. And we've been talking about the trends at tracks with the second race. It'll be the second race at Phoenix. We know Toyota dominated that earlier in the season, but Ford seems to come on strongly there in the last race of the year too. So I think if either one of them can get there, they're certainly going to be a very real threat, and either one of them could win this week. Ford and Team Penske in particular have just been super strong on super speedways this year, so they're going to be tough to beat.
Okay. So now that I have time to think about it, this is the way, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the way you need to go about doing this now. You don't do both. You just take Blaney and Logano, I think, to win this race.
Yeah.
And then now I know you're trying to make double the money, and I get all that, but I think based on where Blaney, they're so far back, and this is such a luck race, that I think that you take the 10-1 on both. Now, you might want to take, I'd be okay if you went Blaney, Logano this week and Logano championship, because he still has good odds for that as well. But Blaney, I would skip, because if he wins and you get him this week, hey, you made money. So just look at it that way. And then if he loses, then I can't believe he'll be plus 450 next week.
No, if he loses, he'll be lower than 450, because like you said, some of the early money from all of it going in earlier has got to take some time to catch up. If he doesn't win this week, and he's on the ropes in Martinsville, you're going to get much better odds without a doubt.
Okay. So getting back to what I was saying until I got rudely interrupted by my internet. The fact is that it's, you got to look for streaks, and Blaney and Logano are definitely streaking. If you look at Blaney in his last three races at Talladega, he's got an average of 32nd with 2 wrecks. His previous 3 races, he was first, second, and second. Okay, so streak for 3, streak for 3. And then you look at Logano, and he's been streaking for a lot longer in a negative way. And NextGen, he's got an average of 29.1 without a top 15. Okay, so that's what that's why I don't even know if you're getting much value there as well with Logano, considering how bad he's been at NextGen here. And then take a look at the fact that this year, Logano's 5 races at Talladega, Daytona, and Atlanta, he's got an average of 29.8. So I just sort of like what I was saying about Larson coming into the Roval, and yet Larson actually ended up with a really good race at the Roval. So again, the question is the odds. I still think you should go that route, but just keep that in mind, is that Logano has not gone through a good run here at Talladega in NextGen, even though in his last 4 races at Talladega, he's led a combined 103 laps, leading 19 or more in all 4 of those races. That's 103 laps in his last 4 races, leading 19 or more in all of those 4. He just hasn't been able to finish the race. And again, that is all luck.
Yeah, Logano spends a lot of time out front. He just needs to not get wrecked when he's out front at this track. Otherwise, he'd probably win it. It's interesting to compare him with Blaney, who has led a grand total of 15 laps over the same 4 races. But we generally think of him as, up there as with Logano. Plus, he's got the win from the fall race of 2023. Austin Cindric, obviously, playing supporting role, can take a top finish away, if not a win, away from some of Logano and Cindric, or Blaney's competitors in the playoffs. So he'll be in it as well. I think all 3 of them teaming up together, this is where I agree with us, Cole. I think this is where I'd be putting my money in terms of a winner this weekend on Sunday, either Blaney or Logano. I think they're 2 excellent choices. They just need to not get crashed.
Yeah, and funny that we really just, put Cindric in the back, even though he's the one who won the race this year. So, yep. But if anything, that's maybe also a negative, because sweeping at a super speedway is incredibly hard. Okay. Now, let's come out of the Penske Hendrick group, and let's do this next one. So we've got Hamlin along with Bell, Keselowski, and Reddick. And in this group, Keselowski's actually the driver that I would be the most interested in. I would put Bell second and Reddick third, Hamlin last. Now, we talked about this before. What is Hamlin driving for?
Right now, nothing.
Yeah.
Preparation
So
Phoenix.
it's like, this is one of the things that I think that when they're thinking of tweaking the system, this has to be part of it. You can't have drivers win a race if you're going to have this type of, you're going to keep this sort of 3-race deal. You can't say, okay, the driver who's in now basically he's got 2 races to do nothing. There's got to be something that he can do to help him in the championship race to position himself better.
Yeah, I mean, the points don't even matter. When you get to the championship race, it's whoever finishes higher. So there's literally nothing that he could do that would hurt or hinder his chances at Phoenix. Basically, all the team is doing is testing and making sure that they're well drilled from pit stops to setup to whatever that they need to know, learning whatever they can about their car and the way that things work in preparation for Phoenix. But again, at Talladega, how much of that translates to a day at Phoenix, I'm not so sure, other than just keeping the pit crew and everybody, limbered up.
I mean, maybe there should be something like you get, like you're competing for position on pit road, or maybe you get positions on qualifying. You get to move up a certain amount of spots. Something you have to get something. I don't know what it is, but you can't. This is ridiculous. It just is, and that's why I don't know why you would take Hamlin, because I think the thing that if I'm Denny Hamlin, the thing that I am now worried about more than anything is getting injured. That's it. And if that means I got to just drive in the back and just play it that way, then I'm driving in the back and playing it that way. That's their rules, not mine. I'm not going to risk an injury. I'm not going to risk doing one of these, and when I'm already in the championship.
For sure.
All right. So that's the reason why I think taking Denny Hamlin would be a big risk. He does have 2 wins. But he's also got a 15.8 average during NextGen, which is not all that great. Couple top 5s, 21st this year. Bell is also 18-1. It's a better option because he needs the race, but he's got a 20th place average in the NextGen with 2 top 10s, no top 5s. He's led just 9 combined laps. He crashed on lap 51 earlier this year. He did win the Ambetter Health 400 race in the most recent Atlanta race. So there is that. If you want to, again, super speedways, they're different. They just are. But that's why I like Keselowski the best, because, and he's not the driver he was at Talladega before. We all know that with his 6 wins. But in his last 5 races at Talladega, 3 top 5s, 2 of those runner-ups, and he also was runner-up to Chase in Atlanta not too long ago. So he still knows how to race on super speedways, and you're getting a big number like 18-1. So, and then Reddick, the only reason I would consider him at all is, he did finish second to Byron in the Daytona 500, but he also has a win here. And that was just last year. So the only thing is that his average finish at NextGen is 19.1, and that includes the win. So it's just, I think that tells me the odds of Tyler Reddick winning again with that average is just not very good. So I think Keselowski, to me, is a clear number 1 in this group.
Totally agree. Keselowski, hands down, is the best choice of this group. We've talked a lot about Toyotas being more unstable in the draft as well. Keselowski isn't a Ford. I think the only downside with Keselowski is that it's an upside in that he'd be able to team up with Cindric, Logano, and Blaney. But the fact of the matter is, when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, they're going to put Blaney or Logano in terms of the front, in terms of the championship, in order to get them there, and they're going to ditch Keselowski along the way. So if he can make it convincing and do it by himself, I think he can do it, which I think that he can. Second in the list, I'd choose Bell. He seems to be able to make the most out of the Toyotas in the super speedway races. For some reason, when Hamlin and Reddick and Briscoe and everybody, they're always fast, but for whatever reason, as they get drafting and bumping, they just become more unstable. For whatever reason, Bell is able to hang on to it a little bit more than some of the others. So that's why I give him the edge, and then probably Reddick after that. But I agree with you, Denny Hamlin has nothing to race for. He'll go out there and he'll do laps, and he'll try to get as much of it, as much of the distance completed as he can, just to make sure everybody stays loose and ready to go. But he's not going to be taking any major risks.
Bell is the hottest driver in the playoffs. He has 6 straight top 10s since the Darlington race. And that includes, as I mentioned before, finishing 3rd in 3 straight races and the win at Bristol. So Christopher Bell is heating up at the right time. And it's starting to feel good now about Christopher Bell, maybe as that championship driver that I've picked the last couple of years. So we'll see if he can keep this up and position himself. And of course, all these drivers want to stay away from a big wreck and putting themselves, because basically all that does is, especially if it's early, is even themselves up with the drivers like Logano and especially Blaney, who got screwed up last week. Or even Byron, if you want to look at it that way. But his screw up was a little late in the race. So, all right. Now, next up, let's go to this group here. And I think this is a pretty decent group. Kyle would be the only one that I pretty much avoid, even though you do wonder about having a good race at Vegas. Does that do anything? I mean, probably not. That's his hometown. So maybe that's the reason why he was a little bit more into that race. Again, I think it's all, I'm trying to say that they're giving up on purpose. I just think they're in that situation when everybody's thinking about the future. There's so many other drivers that are trying to win. It's hard when you're putting yourself in that position, especially when you have so much inconsistency with the team to begin with. So that's why I probably wouldn't put too much into that. But Stenhouse is a clear play here out of this group. But I still think that even Ross Chastain and Daniel Suarez are not bad long shots as well. Being teammates is important. Well, I guess if you still call it that. But Chastain's got to win here, and that's important. Matter of fact, if you look at it in the NextGen in 2022, he was really good. Matter of fact, I think that's probably the peak time of that team was 2022. They had a really great year that year. Both Chastain and Suarez haven't really been the same since then. But the proof is in the last 5 races at Talladega, Chastain's average is 26.6. Suarez, meanwhile, has 5 career top 10s. 4 of those have come in the NextGen. He was 9th this year too. But what I would look for is when we talk on Saturday, where does Suarez and Chastain line up? Because that really has dictated where they finish, believe it or not, even though it's not supposed to be that important at Talladega. But it has been for 2 drivers. So talk about that on Saturday. And so as far as the group is concerned, I think Stenhouse is the clear driver to beat. And I might actually put Suarez 2, Chastain 3, and Kyle 4.
It's interesting with Kyle Busch, especially because Richard Childress usually has such great super speedway cars. And the first race that Busch went to Richard Childress, he won Talladega. That was a spring race of 2023, but he hasn't done anything since. His best finish since then at this track was 19th. He's led laps in every race, a handful here and there since then. But again, best finish since that win was 19th. So Daniel Suarez and Ross Chastain, top 10 finishers, pretty consistently at this track when they are able to avoid trouble. So I think both of them can be pretty good. Obviously, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is always one to watch on the super speedways. He's just ultra aggressive. If he doesn't get himself crashed or crash anybody else out, then he's typically in there for a top 5 finish, if not the win, which he did in this race last season. So I would probably put Stenhouse first. I might take a flyer on Busch, but it would have to be a gut feel only because of the good race that he had last week and the fact that he is in a Richard Childress car.
Yeah, Stenhouse, as you mentioned, the defending champ in his last 3 races, 12th, 1st, and 4th at Talladega. That's pretty good. And his average starting position in the next gen, 31st. So again, doesn't matter, but maybe a sign. It also tells you it's not so easy for him, doesn't have really good teammates, that kind of thing. Still something to keep in mind on, and we'll talk about it on Saturday. Uh, Mr. Cole wanted to just point out that FanDuel has got Blaney at 850 for the championship.
Significantly better.
Yeah, in that circumstance, then I would definitely take Blaney for sure. I have no problem with the scenario you're talking about this weekend, the championship. But to be honest with you, I might just stick with the championship. You have a little bit more to go. See, the reason I say to stick with the championship is because you can lose this race and have Logano or Blaney still win the championship. Now, if you win this race, well, hey, I could double up. So that's the way you got to look at it. But that's going to be a little bit harder. I still have no problem doing both. It depends on how much you're talking about. But at 850 to 1 to win the championship, I'd say just go for it right now. Absolutely. And I would take Blaney and Logano first and foremost to win the championship before I even worry about Sunday.
Yeah, definitely better odds than we saw earlier on DraftKings, and that's right in the range where I think it's the right spot to take both of them for sure. It's odd how the Logano odds are pretty similar between them, but then Blaney's so different.
Yeah, again, not surprising because of the way the points are structured. So again, every sports book should be different. Okay, next group here, and not a sexy group. I think out of this, now Briscoe, of course, is the playoff driver at 22 to 1. He was 15th earlier this year and led 20 laps in the race. So that's good news. But he's got a 14th average in his last 6 races, all next gen, just one top 5. And that top 5 is it out of 9 races at Talladega. And he's only led 25 laps. So he led 20 earlier this year, which is a good sign. And he's been a lot more experienced with this team. So I probably, and look, Buescher's going to be okay, and Wallace is going to be okay too, because Wallace has got a win back in 2021. It was the last pre-next gen race. 8th this year, 9th last year. So I think it's, I think this is tough to decide which way to go. I'd probably, if I was going to take a driver, I would definitely go Briscoe though, based on what he's, I don't see a big difference here. And therefore, I'm taking the driver that really needs it more. That's all. But I'm not really I don't look at this group and go, yeah, I really like this group.
Yeah, I agree. Chase Briscoe's best finish at Talladega was a 4th back in 2023. He does have a 10th place finish in this race from 2022. Those were both in Fords. However, he does have the 20 laps led for Joe Gibbs Racing in this race, or at the track earlier this season. So the Joe Gibbs cars, like I said before, the Toyotas are fast at super speedways. There's no question about that. It's just a question of whether or not they can hold on to the stability as guys get pushing and things get rowdy in the pack. And is Briscoe going to be able to hang on to it? Wallace has an ability to do that. 9th and 8th in his last 2 Talladega races. He's got the win back from the fall race of 2021. We always talk about him coming to the front at super speedway races. So I think he's a good one to go with as well. And then Barry, we had not really talking about him, but he did qualify inside the top 10. Not that that matters in this race and at this track earlier this year. And he led 12 laps. Ended up with trouble and finished 26. So he's another one like Keselowski that could pair up with the Logano, Blaney, Cindric combination and pull his way forward. But again, at the end, I agree. I think Briscoe is the one that needs it. So therefore, he's going to be the one that's really going all out. Plus, I think at the end of the day, his car is probably ultimately faster, just less stable than the others.
Okay, let's move on. Bowman, Priest, Dillon, McDowell. I think this group, it's easy. I'd go with Bowman. He's coming off a nice finish last week. And in the next gen, he's got 3 top 10s and 1 top 5 with an average of 13th, which is pretty solid. He was 7th this year. I don't really see a whole lot else with this group. I mean, Dylan is probably a nice fantasy driver. It's not the worst idea in the world. He's capable of pulling out wins like this. They were 10th this year, 8th last year in this race. And McDowell is a driver that has actually done well early here, but he can't seem to keep the car together for the entire race. 11th this year, led 10 laps. Last year, he was on the pole for both races and led 42 laps and 36 laps. But he crashed in both races. So that's my point. So if you want to gamble, the McDowell is going to make it through all the way. He's definitely up there as far as potential long shots based on that data. I'd probably take him second, Dylan third, but I'll still go with Bowman first in this group.
Yeah, I agree. Bowman's got the need to get up front and help his teammates out as well, take a top spot away from all the other playoff contenders.
And that could hurt him.
Yep.
At the end of the race. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with you in the order as well. So I think Bowman, Dylan's got potential just based on what he's able to do with the Richard Childress car, his history at super speedways. McDowell, yeah, he's been great, but he still needs to prove it to me in Spire and Chevrolet. He was really good when he was with Front Row Motorsports. I haven't seen that same kind of edge since he's joined Spire and switched over to Chevrolet. Maybe he'll get it back. Maybe it'll be this weekend. We'll see. But until he gets that, still going with the order of Bowman, Dylan, then McDowell.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. And then we've got this next group. By the way, that would be kind of interesting because we really haven't seen that before. Is if Bowman's in the lead. I mean, if Bowman's in the lead, and let's just say Chase is pushing him, and this is going on for like 10 or 15 laps, and we get to the last couple of laps. I mean, really, we haven't seen that before. I mean, if this was F1, we know what would happen.
Yes.
But what do you think in a race of this? Do you think that? Because I know that they would probably do it on a restart. They would say, okay, this is what you're going to do. And then this is how Chase is going to get ahead of you. But I don't know how you do that if you're in that situation where there's no caution and you're just out there and you're being pushed. How do you become the pusher?
Yeah, I don't know. I think they've already had controversy this year in looking at radio communications, and they've been very forceful, NASCAR has, in coming back and reminding the teams and the drivers that manipulation of the race results, regardless of position, is not going to be tolerated. So about the only thing I can think of, and these guys obviously are way smarter and think a lot longer about it than I do. The only way I can think of is if you've got Chase pushing you or Kyle pushing you off the last turn, they have to make a move for the lead, right? So anybody up there, if you're in second place, you're going to try to make a move for the lead. When they make that move for the lead, do you just slightly lift the throttle? Do you just feather it just a bit? Does NASCAR go and look at that and see, look at the telemetry and say, oh, you lifted them on the throttle, therefore that's manipulation and you're out. I don't know how you define that either way. I don't know how NASCAR could prove it. I don't know how you defend it, but that's about the only way I could think of. It's a very good question, but yeah, I think Bowman in the lead, he has to give it up to one of his teammates if he's there.
As far as this group is concerned, I think I'd go with Hocevar. He had a strong 6th place finish this year from the 28th position. And he also had a couple of top 10s in Atlanta, as well as a runner-up finish in one of the races at Atlanta this year. Otherwise, Gibbs actually led 32 laps earlier this year at Talladega, ultimately finished 17th with a 25.7 average in 6 cup races at the track. And Gilliland's had his moments. He's got 3 top 10s out of 7 in the Cup Series. And we know Haley can race at super speedways. He's got a 3rd place finish at Daytona as well earlier in the Daytona 400. And his average is 19.2 over his career in 11 races at Talladega, but his average start is 30.2. Again, if that matters to you, he was 25th earlier this year. So I'm probably not going to take any of these drivers, but I will take Hocevar.
Yeah, I think Hocevar is the top. Gibbs, great with the laps led. Another Toyota that has a tendency to crash here and just not be able to capitalize on the speed. Gilliland, I think I would put behind Hocevar. He's with Front Row Motorsports in that Ford, so I think his top 10 potential continues there. Justin Haley is with Spire, and we talked about Michael McDowell and Spire as well in the Chevrolets. And yes, Haley's good at the super speedways too. But Haley, actually, the news today was that he is not going to return to Spire Motorsports in 2026. So this will be the first race where he knows he's not coming back to the team. Does that give him something to prove, or does it make it a little bit harder for him this weekend? I'm not exactly sure, but like you said, probably the only one out of this bunch I might think about would be Hocevar.
And then as far as the rest of the drivers, let's see. There's only a couple of drivers that I would consider. Eric Jones is definitely one of them at 45-1. And the other would be Noah Gragson at 55-1. And you're taking a look at the rest of these drivers and their odds. These are the real super long shots here. Reason I would go with those two drivers as potential long shots. Of course, Eric Jones is a good super speedway racer. He's got 8 top 10s and 3 top 5s in his career at Talladega. He was 5th at both Atlanta and Daytona this year. And in the NextGen, he's got 4 top 10s and 1 top 5 in 7 races, leading 55 laps combined. Gragson, meanwhile, he's got 2 top 5s in 6 Cup races at Talladega. He's got an Xfinity win at Talladega. And in his last 3 races, that's where he's actually had those top 5s. He was 4th in the race this year. So this is, I'm pretty sure this has been the most successful Cup location for Gragson so far. So that's why I would take Jones and Gragson. Other than that, I don't really see any other long shots to my liking. How about you?
Gragson with the 2 top 5s out of 6 tries at Talladega. I will say you had SVG up there on the screen. Just want to say it'll be interesting to see. He's been toward the front at super speedways, just hasn't been able to finish there. Last week he was on course for a top 15 and actually had a strategy called in that last stop to do 2 tires, which put him in the top 5 before he got caught up in that last crash of the race. So he was on course to have another really good oval finish. So I think SVG is starting to get it on the ovals, and maybe that bodes well for his chances next year to go further into the playoffs.
Yeah, we really don't want to see a driver be dominant at a road course and bad on the other races. That's a bad look. So good for SVG. All right. So, just one tidbit here, and that is the fact that Austin Hill at 100-1. Let's keep in mind that in the Xfinity Series, he's got 9 super speedway wins, 5 in Atlanta, 3 in Daytona, 1 in Talladega. And if this was an Xfinity Series race, he'd probably be the 2-1 favorite. So it hasn't translated in Cup yet, but
it will at some point when he gets here permanently, I think.
Yeah. No word on when that's going to happen. He hasn't got a ride next year yet.
He, as far as that, well, still to be determined, but he's part of the RTR. So somebody's going to have to make way, or they're going to have to get another car or a partner to put him in full time.
Okay. All right. Who has the first pick?
I do, because you took the top.
I took Larson last week.
You did.
Okay.
So I will go. This actually makes it harder this week because it's between Blaney and Logano. I would have just taken whichever one you didn't take, but I will go with Blaney as first choice.
Blaney. Okay. I'm going to go with either Byron or Elliott. So, I know it was important that in order for me to even consider Byron, that he started to look good before the ridiculous wreck. And Elliott hasn't really jumped off the page lately either, but he's been a little bit better. I'm going to go ahead and take Byron.
Scroll down for me. Let's see here. I'll take Bell.
Bell at a very good value at 18-1. I will stick with that number and take Keselowski. And
for
now
my
we've got the long shots.
for my long shot, I'll take Josh Berry as my long shot.
Josh Berry. Interesting. Okay. Let's see. Who will I take? I'm going to take Hocevar. Okay, so there you go. Blaney, Bell, Berry. CJ going with the B's. I'm starting with the B, Byron, and I'm going to go to Keselowski and Hocevar. So that's it for our coverage for NASCAR. And we'll be back next week when we talk NASCAR to get into Martinsville and the final race to decide, because 2 drivers will enter next week. And then we'll have our 4 playoff drivers for 2025 at one of the worst racetracks in the series. So all the fun's going to be over pretty much.
Yeah.
And I tell you right now, if Blaney's not in the championship, I'll probably be sleeping through that thing. But okay.
We have next year to look forward to when they go to Homestead.
Yes, we do. All right. So as we promised in the beginning, it is time to talk a little bit of F1. So let's make the transition here over to F1. And back out of this, and we'll just start with that. Okay, so let's talk some Formula One USA style. It's the USA Grand Prix, and they're going to be in Texas. So what do we know about Texas? And we talked last week about whether or not this would be a good opportunity to jump on Max Verstappen. And you set the record straight, trying to calm everybody, slow the roll. Do not waste your money on Max Verstappen. The percentage of him, the likelihood of him being able to win a championship should be a lot better than the odds that you're given.
Yeah, there are 63 points separating him from Oscar Piastri at the top of the standings right now. If he won every single race, not including, I should say, if he wins a race and Piastri finishes second, the most points he can gain on that lead would be 7 points. We have 6 races after this weekend left in the championship and 3 sprint races. We have a sprint race this weekend. So there are a few extra points there, but if you just take the 6 races remaining, or call it 7 races remaining, 63 points, do the math. 7 times 7 is 49. That's not 63 points where he makes up. And yes, you have the sprint races that are in there. So it's still mathematically possible, but effectively Verstappen has to win out, because in order for him to close a gap of that size, you really need Piastri and Norris to be having DNFs, which they really aren't doing this year. If one of them has a problem, the other one usually does fairly well, is able to pick up the slack. Both of them very rarely, if ever, go out of the race, and usually one of them is on the podium as well. So that limits the amount of points that Verstappen can take. So again, not worth the odds that they're trying to sell you here. It's still a 2-horse race between Piastri and Norris.
What's the point differential at the top between 60. Norris and Piastri?
Between Norris and Piastri, the differential is only 25 points. So that's a much closer battle, but they are so far ahead of third place Max Verstappen that Verstappen's really not in it.
So then Verstappen's luck would have to deal with more of Piastri.
Yes.
Like he'd have to have what, 2 or 3 DNFs?
At least 2. And
at least 2.
Verstappen's basically got to win every single race.
Sure. Yeah, that's the easy part. Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah. But Piastri would have to do a couple of DNFs, and Norris would need at least 1.
Yep.
Okay.
To make it realistic, yes.
I guess the only way this really gets fun is if this would have to happen like right away.
Yes.
Like Piastri and Norris would have to like both DNF this week and Verstappen win. And then we've got something.
Then we could have a race to the finish. Yeah.
Okay.
That make these last 6 races very interesting. So again, we do have 3 sprint races. There's a sprint race this weekend. Maximum points on that is 8. But if again Piastri finishes second in that, Max only makes up 1 point. So the maximum point differential on a 1-2 finish between Piastri and Verstappen, or with Verstappen in the lead, would be 8 points over an entire weekend.
Okay, that's the championship. Let's talk about the race coming up. So what do we know about Texas? And let's see what we got here. What are you doing? What is this nonsense?
Those are pre-made single game parlays if you want to take them. I actually looked through those earlier today, didn't see anything that really attracted me. You just keep scrolling down, you'll see the odds. But this will be the 13th Formula One race that we've had here at Circuit of the Americas. Lewis Hamilton has won the most races at this track at 4. Max Verstappen has 3. Charles Leclerc, Ferrari, is the one that won last year. And Carlos Sainz, his teammate, was second on the podium last year. Max Verstappen finished 3rd.
Okay, so is there any chance that a Russell Leclerc, who would you give the best chance, Russell, Leclerc, or Hamilton?
I would give the best chance for a surprise winner to be Charles Leclerc. Russell, yes, he won last week at Singapore, but Mercedes from week to week, very inconsistent as to whether they're going to be fast or whether they're going to be hindered. And this is a very different track than Singapore. So since they were fast last time out at Singapore, George Russell obviously with the win, I'm going to say that we're going to get slow McLaren this week. However, given Ferrari's history at the track, which has actually been pretty good despite not having a win until last year with Charles Leclerc, they tend to do pretty well here. Lewis Hamilton, obviously, like I said, has the 4 wins, though that was with Mercedes, but they put both of their cars first and second on the podium in this race last year. So I think if anybody is going to disrupt the McLaren and Max Verstappen fight, it's going to end up being Charles Leclerc.
Okay, and here are the 3 drivers. Now, this is where you do get a realistic chance where if you want to make some money, but I mean, the good way is now that Max has put himself in this position, you're not getting any minus driver action, especially with Lando Norris. Now, if you win a race, you can make a little money here, which is nice. What do you think? Is this a tough one to handicap, or do you have a pretty good idea of what's going to happen?
I think I give Max Verstappen the edge because this is going to come down to qualifying. Typically speaking, only the last 2 races is this different. But typically speaking, you got to qualify in the front row to win at this track. Max won from 6th in 23, and then Leclerc won last year from 4th to the 2nd row. Verstappen's been extremely strong in qualifying, especially recently. The new floor that they brought to the car, I think, has given him an edge, and he feels more comfortable throughout the race on the tires as well. So I think if Verstappen starts on the front row, he can really take it to Norris and Piastri. And he is such a great qualifier, and this is such a more well-rounded track in terms of what it demands out of the car. I think this is a place where Verstappen can have the edge. What I would recommend, though, is if you take Verstappen for the win here, you can see there's not a big difference at all between the top 3 choices. I would take Verstappen for the win, but I would hedge it with the constructor because Verstappen has stepped up. You're getting better odds on McLaren as winning car. They're still negative, but last I checked, they were a low negative number, which enables you to do a little bit of a hedge there if you go with them as the winning car. So pair those bets together. You got McLaren at -150. You've got Max at a +225. And I think that's probably the way to go if you want to hedge. Otherwise, I would just go with Max for the win.
Okay. And what do we got? What's coming up next? Is this when they leave the United States again?
They leave the United States, they go south to Mexico, and then even further south to Brazil, and then they come back up to the United States in winter for the desert race in the middle of the night at Las Vegas, where everybody wears their winter coats before they head out to the Middle East for Qatar and Abu Dhabi to finish out the season.
Okay. Yeah, so that's that the traveling plans of F1 definitely a little weird, but it is what it is. And Next week is actually going to be the first week of 2 straight weeks where we are going to be airing our show a little bit early live here on Proline TV, just a half hour earlier. So we'll be on at 3:30 Eastern. And F1. So we know where they're going. So they're going back to back.
They do go back to back. So we will talk about, we'll wrap up the United States next week and we'll preview Mexico. And then we'll have a week off before they go to Brazil.
Okay. And again, also to remind everybody that you'll have your F1 report from RotoWire. That's the DS report. That'll be available F1 later in the week. Definitely no later than Friday. Same thing with the NASCAR report as well. Correct?
You got it. We'll have the link for you in the description of this video, rotowire.com.
Excellent. So there you go. It is our auto racing coverage, NASCAR and F1 for this upcoming week. We are going to be back next week as usual for more NASCAR and F1 coverage. Don't forget, you can check out Kevin Rogers. His report will come out on Saturday, usually early in the morning or no later than around noontime on Saturday. And then I'll have my report just a few hours later after that, as we have, I think it's 3 o'clock-ish, something like that. Double check. Yeah, 3 o'clock. That should be the approximate time that I should be available to talk about a few things regarding qualifying and practice. We know it's not the biggest deal in the world, but we will have a report nonetheless and talk about maybe some of those drivers who ended up qualifying a little bit better than they're used to, and maybe whether that'll help them and give them a better chance to win on Sunday. Well, we'll go over that on the show. So that's going to wrap it up. For CJ Redoon, I'm Greg DePalma. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget, like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. Real important to help us grow here as a channel and provide all of this information for you for free. And we'll